Hello everyone, I've got a review, I guess, and a bit of haul really for you today of some of the returning favorites or returning classics from the Bath & Body Works White Barn Candle Company 2013 Autumn Collection. As we all know, and also as described in my earlier videos, the four-part collection series, there are four collections. There's the White Barn Woods, the Fresh Picked, the Bath & Body Works Home collections, which are a pumpkin line or the silver leaf line, and then across those collections, of course, there are many returning favorites, some slightly tweaked or different names, maybe in different lines than they were in past years, and then also plenty of new candles as well. So the first four videos I did included more of the new scents. So we had the pumpkin pecan waffles, pumpkin carrot cake, tailgate, pumpkin hayride, blackberry spice, sweater weather, pine cone, applewood bonfire, flannel, cedarwood trail, coconut wood, vanilla vetiver. I think that may have been all of them. But I wanted to do this video, which will probably be a bit quicker, just for anyone who maybe, is new to Bath & Body Works and didn't smell these last year or just wants to know my opinion on them. The 8 scents you see here are scents that are returning from past years. Some of them, have been around for many years, and some of them are just making their second appearance in the autumn line. But these are all ones that, for the most part, I really, really enjoy. And I was at the store, and they had a bunch of these, so I figured I might as well grab them while they're available to get fall started. So this won't be a super long one, since, again, you know most of these, but let's check them out. So first up, we've got good old, I'm trying to get a good focus here, sorry, a little sunny, Cranberry Woods. Now I really like the wax, or the color of the wax and the label this year. Originally, my favorite label was when it first came out. It was like really, it was just like a dark purple and like a wood, like a forest picture for I think the first 2 years, like maybe, what was that, 2010 and 11. 2012, last year, it came in the White Barn line, had just a white bowl with just cranberries, which really was not showing the woodsy notes of it. And of course, I'm a stickler for the marketing and the labels and things like that, so I always, I'm a little picky about that. This is really nice. It's just like an outdoor cranberry wreath on looks like on a sort of a wooden or rock stoop with, the forest on the background. So I think this is really pretty. It works. It fits with the little tiny, like the logo with the little script name on there, and it just is really nice overall. And the notes on it, as they sort of change them every year, are fresh tart cranberries, black currant, and warm cinnamon bark, combines in a delightful fragrance inspired by the magic of woods during harvest time. Now, in years past, I have a little thing here. In years past, they've described it as much more woodsy and earthy and heavy. It's still the same scent, but they just make it a little less, I guess, intense sounding. And this one, I'm not sure if I really talked about this in the past. It's a classic fall scent. For me, it's an absolute must-have. I'd be super bummed if they didn't, come back with it this year. But you do really have a true cranberry, but it's so different than the other cranberries. We've had cranberry perbellini in the winter. We've got frosted cranberry, which I love, and there are cranberry notes in a lot of different, fall and winter scents. But it's a very true, strong cranberry. But you also do have the woods there, and it's not really like a firewood or a burning wood. It's so unique. It's heavy, but what's so interesting about this is whereas so many of the new White Barn Woods candles lean towards what people consider the cologne-y scents, where it just seems like something a man would wear and it's a little generic, this is not at all. It's got the woods in it, and it's got the freshness of the cranberry, and this shows you that you really can do a fantastic fragrance that is clearly a home fragrance and not a body fragrance. But yeah, you get the black currant, you get the heaviness of the cranberry. The black currant brings it heavy. The cranberry is really bright and pops and like an intense tartness. So it has a little bit of that fruitiness, but there is the cinnamon bark, the spice to it, without it being a spicy, sweet, homey candle. This really does seem like an outdoors scent. And the woods are there. It's intense, but they're not too much. It's really just perfectly balanced and a fantastic fall candle. Definitely a unique scent, and in my opinion, an absolute must-have. So moving on to the other one I've got in the White Barn collection is a returning fragrance from just last year. It was a brand new, as far as I know, scent last year, White Barn Nutmeg and Spice #1. And you see here, it started the collection of the barns, where so you have the nutmeg and spice #1. Then we had the #2, which was the winter cabin in the fall. I'm sorry, in the winter. That was I don't remember exactly what they said, but it was the nutmeg and clove, or not nutmeg, the clove and something, chestnut and clove. Then we had it in spring for the renew and refresh. Just really nice to have sort of a theme going through the seasons, because I'm very seasonal. And this is just, a white barn, surprise, surprise, with changing leaves. It looks like a mid-October day. And the notes on it, just a white wax. The notes are: a warming blend of spiced caramel and nutmeg brings to mind the delightful memories of a long weekend in the country. Very much a country scent. I think that's a nice way of saying it. It's not really forest, it's not woods, it's country. Sort of country home like that. And it's just so nice. I don't really get, it's very, very, very creamy, but I don't so much get caramel, because I don't get this as foody at all. You've got the nutmeg definitely comes off as creamy. They had a creamy nutmeg years ago that the pumpkin pecan waffles scent reminds me a little bit of actually this year. But so you've got nutmeg. I suppose there may be some other spice in there. I don't really get cinnamon though. I don't believe there's cinnamon in there. I guess it's caramel. It's almost creamy, almost a little milky. Like there's got to be some vanilla in there, but it's not a powdery vanilla. It's not a super, super sweet whipped vanilla. It's just a very calm vanilla. This is a fantastic, what did they say here? Just spiced caramel and nutmeg. It's a little milky, I guess is what I'd say. It's like a little bit towards like maybe a frothed milk. So you could almost picture this as a beverage, but not really. But it's just, it's hard to really describe it, because it's basic but so unique, and it's just fantastic for layering. It's definitely fall, but you could burn it outside of autumn. Just really, really nice. I love that one a lot. Then we've got, moving on to some fresh picks. Spice cider. This is another one that has, for as long as I've been into Bath & Body Works since Latte & Co. White Barn, this has been around. So, at least this is probably the 4th or 5th year this has made an appearance. It's one of those scents that always surprises me when it comes back, because spice cider seems so basic, and they always have so many different plays on that. They've had cranberry cider over the years. They've had hot apple toddies. They've had the cider donuts. They've had the different apples. They've had different cinnamon scents. So this is one where I'm always thinking it could be on the chopping block. But it's sort of one of their core scents that they don't seem to be messing with for fall. And this year, kind of strangely, appears in the Fresh Picked line. Again, I think they're really grasping at straws marketing the fall Fresh Picked line, because they're throwing things in there that really aren't particularly fresh picked. The coffee that's in there. Perhaps, I guess, pear and apple are okay to be in there. Blackberry maybe if it's the fruity line, but this isn't any fruitier than anything that's in the Silverleaf collection. But, anyway, the notes on this one are: drink in a delicious blend of apples straight from the orchard, accented by traditional mulling spices and a touch of vanilla. Now, this is true. This really is, if I sniff this, a nice bright red wax, too. It really is a true spiced cider scent. Now, it's not a foodie spiced cider the way that caramel apple or cider lane really smells like you have apple cider with gobs and gobs of rich caramel that you're drinking either from the orchard or while you're apple picking, or from Starbucks or something. This really is a little bit more of the home fragrance kind of cider. So there's apple in this. It's not so much like a brown cider. It's almost more a little bit lean towards like an apple juice or almost an applesauce. So it's not necessarily as sort of raw in its scent. It's a little brighter, a little fresher. And when I say raw, I mean sort of the way that apple cider is like not very processed, not super filtered, that rawness. I don't mean cooked, uncooked. Whereas this is just more of a bright, fruity sort of apple, cider, more of a juice. And there are spices in there. There is a lot of sweetness in the apple, but even like the cinnamon that's in here, and the traditional mulling spices, whatever they are, I assume it's maybe cinnamon, nutmeg, a little anise or something like that. They're really a sweet blend of it. It's not spicy, even though it's spiced cider, there are spices in there, but just really a lovely scent that when I smell it, obviously I purchased it, I smell it and I say, oh yes, that's right. It is basic, it is great for layering, but it's also a scent that I would miss if they didn't bring back, so a good choice for them to come back with that. Then we've got Farmstand Apple. This first came out last year with the 2012 collection. It seemed to replace Autumn Apple, which was a lot of folks' favorite apple. I think it was mine. It really was the most authentic, true apple scent and home fragrance they ever had. This Farmstand Apple is really nice, and it's a decent replacement, but it's not as pure and authentic as Autumn Apple was. So this is, of course, in Fresh Picked collection. Just a nice, now this one makes sense to be in Fresh Picked, I kind of like that there. The notes on it read, this sparkling orchard favorite is reminiscent of a bright sunny day picking apples with friends, with notes of Macintosh apple, pear blossom, and oak. So whereas the other one was really kind of a true apple, I think they might have said 3 apples or something were in it, this one adds a little more to it with the oak. Now oak is usually golden, it adds sort of, usually like a sweet sort of wood when they add it to fall candles. Now when you smell this, this is super pure, this is, as apple as you can get, this is a bite into a fresh crunch of apple. So it is really fantastic. And there is a little sweetness that is from, I think, the pear blossom. It reminds me almost of the drenched apple flower from 2012 spring collection. Unfortunately, didn't make it back this year, and I loved it. But the blossom, anytime you get like apple blossom or pear blossom, it doesn't really add floral. It just adds this different kind of sweetness that you don't get from fruit. So it's not like a juicy sweetness. It's a little calmer. Really, really nice. And then you do get the oak. It's just a tiny hit of something that tells you this isn't, a spring apple. This is a fall scent with that tiny bit of wood in it that really just smells like, outdoors, just to the slightest bit. But to an untrained nose, most people will just say, oh, it's apple. But really nice. Moving on to the pumpkin collection. Try not to make this video long, sorry here. Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin. Now this one is a lot of people's favorite. It's sort of their core pumpkin fall scent. Their body care, off and on over the past couple of years, and antibacterial lines always seem to have Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin in it. There's also Pumpkin Patch, which of course has come back as Pumpkin Carving happily this year, that are like the two, and for some reason, for most years, Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin always seemed to be the big seller and the big one they were marketing. It's not my favorite of the pumpkins, but it is a very nice scent, and again, it's sort of along the lines of Spice Cider, where if they didn't have it, a lot of people would miss it, so it makes sense for them to bring it back. Just so you know, it's kind of a burnt orange wax, very basic, just pure, cinnamon or pumpkins with grass on the label there. And the notes on this one are, celebrate pumpkin season with this inviting mixture of harvest pumpkin, sweet vanilla cream, and fall's rich spices. Now, as most people know from sniffing this, over the years, it's very heavy on the cinnamon. There is some pumpkin there, a little bit of creaminess, but it leans almost towards like the spice cider, where there is a lot. That sweet cinnamon is predominant. It's, borderline red hot sort of cinnamon, but also quite similar to the cinnamon and clove buds candle. Just not quite as intense, a little creamier, a little more maybe the vanilla. Is that what they said in here? Yeah, sweet vanilla and rich spices. It's nice. It's a little bit much for me. It's a little too heavy on the spice and not quite authentic enough. It's not a pumpkin bakery treat or a pumpkin pie, whereas usually the notes seem to make it sound more like the pumpkin pie of the line. But it is nice. It smells like fall. You've got the cinnamon and a little bit of pumpkin. No one would argue that this is certainly a fall fragrance and a fall favorite at that. And then moving on to Pumpkin Caramel Latte. First made an appearance in 2011. Came back last year. Some people really seem to love it, and is back again for the third appearance. Pumpkin Caramel Latte. The weird thing with this is most folks will note they really don't get much pumpkin from it, and they don't get any of the latte. They don't get any espresso, coffee, nothing like that, which is kind of weird that they are still sticking with the name Pumpkin Caramel Latte. Again, just their marketing being a little off. Just a really milky kind of caramelish color. Pumpkin Caramel Latte. They show a latte, a drink on there with some pumpkins in the background, so they're still claiming, latte. However, this year in the notes, they seem to have dropped any idea of there actually being, espresso in it. Saying, gather with friends and celebrate the season with this warm, rich blend of creamy pumpkin, spiced caramel, and sweet cream. So the first year I got it, first year I didn't like it, and then I bought it last year, and I ended up actually kind of getting used to it. To me, it's very sweet. It's not ooey gooey caramel in the way that some bakery caramels can be, and certainly not in the spiced kind of caramel apple spiced cider, or mainly, excuse me, cider lane kind of caramel. It's much more like a blanket is thrown over that, and the blanket is made out of whipped, foamy milk cream. Some vanilla. There's a lot of sweetness in this, but there's something about it that I've started to like. I don't really get much pumpkin. I do sort of see a similarity to the creamy pumpkin candle, which you don't see here. Currently they say maybe in testing phase, may go wide. Most years I haven't purchased that. I think I bought it once. I may buy it again this year when we have another sale and we're deeper into fall and I'm just looking for a fix basically. But it's a little similar to that, where it is a little bit of creamy pumpkin to it, very little. Mostly you're getting the sweetness from the caramel and the sort of whipped, frothy, milky, super milky, creamy. But I kind of like it now. I think that layered with harvest coffee or espresso bar would be really, really great. This is one where I kind of stick to burning it pretty much just on in the mornings. So same thing with the espresso bar or harvest coffee. Those layered together I think would be great, because you've got this intense coffee and espresso from the other one, but throw in the creamy sweetness of this, and I think it's probably a major winner. So I may have to give that a shot and see how that is. Then we've got what is probably my favorite fall candle, and I'm so stoked that they have come to their senses and brought this back. For years this was out as Pumpkin Patch. Last year it was not to be seen. Then they released for the fall fragrance event, they gave away exclusive pumpkin carving candles in 4-ounce, the 4-ounce size. That day only. They never really sold them. Some random stores had a few. Some test stores had a few. Some test stores had like one tiny small random shipment of the 3 wicks in the pumpkin carving last year, but they were not a normal occurrence to find them. And happily, pumpkin carving, while a new name, was just a straight up repackage of Pumpkin Patch, which was a good choice because Pumpkin Patch really is such a true fantastic pumpkin. So before I get into that, the label is really fun this year. Just a ton of jack-o'-lanterns all lit up, smiling at you. I think it's really fun. Very Halloween-y, but I have more to say on that in a moment. Invite everyone over to enjoy the fun fragrance of making jack-o'-lanterns in this blend of pumpkin, brown sugar, and nutmeg. And smelling this, oh man. You see I've already, out of these ones, I already burned this. Last night I couldn't wait, I had to give it a shot. And I burned it for a few hours, and it was just a flawless burn. You can see where it went down to right about where my thumbnail is. Perfect wicks, full pool, fantastic throw, just A+. And this one really smells like a true pumpkin. Now, none of the candles have, like that real sort of actual like pumpkin pulp or pumpkin mush scent to it. But if any of them have it, this is the one. You do get a little bit of spice, but it's not the fake overwhelmingness of sweet cinnamon pumpkin. Did they say there's, brown sugar and nutmeg? Maybe a little nutmeg, kind of no cinnamon. A little nutmeg, there's some creamy vanilla in here, but it's not overly sweet in the way that the pumpkin caramel latte is. It's not milky. Oh gosh, and brown sugar, I guess you get a little sugar. It's kind of a dim, just a little bit of a sweetness, but it's not overly bright, and it's not caramelized in any way. Now what's interesting to me is for a few years when they, I guess not last year, but 2011 it must have been, Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin and Pumpkin Patch at the time, the way the notes were listed is they made Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin sound more like the pumpkin pie, and pumpkin carving more like a random sort of fall fragrance. Whereas to me, this one actually smells more like a pie. It smells more like a mix of everything fall, almost like a waxiness of like candy corn, or the way that like when you open up, I was going to say open up a box for pumpkin pie, but hopefully we're making pumpkin pies at Thanksgiving. You really get more of that true, authentic smell of pumpkin with a little bit of spices, but not overwhelming. This is a little bit more authentic. If they threw in some crust, they could call this pumpkin pie. Really, really great. But yeah, so this one to me almost is more, you could take this one, even though it's called pumpkin carving, this one is more October into November even, because it's more towards Thanksgiving to me, whereas Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin is more September, October, sort of generic fall. A nice but generic fall. Whereas this one is so authentic, and just really everything fall is, plus into November as you transition to, you know, holiday scents for December. But love it. You've got to pick it up if you've never smelled it before. And finally, good old classic, Leaves. Last year I really didn't burn Leaves a whole lot. When I first started with Bath & Body Works, it was like one of my ultimate favorite scents. You know, you've got winter in the winter, Leaves in the fall and autumn, and it was kind of their classic, this is what Slack & Co. does. I got away from it a bit, but now that I didn't really burn it much last year, I do like it again. It's kind of the one where if it didn't come back, people would miss it, and it's a lot of people's favorites. It's actually in 2 labels this year. It's similar to last year. It's in the White Barn Woods line with white wax. I think it's got like just a white bowl on it or something, and a couple of really bright, prettily colored like sun-kissed apples on it. But since that really doesn't match the fragrance, I figured I'd go with the Bath & Body Works Home Gold Silver Leaf collection, which is just walking through a path of trees. Clearly it's later fall, not so much like the bright autumn fall, autumn candle. It's a little later, you know, the ground is darker, the leaves are all yellow, and it's just a brown wax. And the notes on it are celebrate the brilliant colors of autumn with its rich blend of golden nectar, red apple, and spiced berries. It's the most like sort of earthy, dirty, musty candle from all the fall ones, or from the classic fall ones. Of course you've got apple, you've got spices, but you also do get that really kind of cloying, heavy, dark golden nectar. Now I don't know exactly what golden nectar is. It almost seems like sap from a tree without being woody. Perhaps from fruit. I don't know. And there are certainly spiced berries in there because, as I said in one of my earlier videos, this blackberry spice reminds me a bit of this. So, again, not a whole lot to say on this. You've got an overall full fall. Now this one smells, whereas autumn is so bright, like a true fall day outdoors, this one is a little bit more like craft store to me. The way that, I forget which one, but one of the other candles in my earlier collections, in my earlier reviews, smelled a little bit, I think Pumpkin Hayride, a little bit like walking into a craft store, the way that they think of fall, you know. But, I mean, at the same time, between the earthy smell, the nectar, the berries, the heavy apple, kind of can't go wrong with it. So, good old Leaves. So, sorry for making this another long video, but wanted to get a little more in-depth with some of the classics here. So again, if you have any questions, hit me up. Just the review here again: Nutmeg and Spice #1, Cranberry Woods, Farmstand Apple, Spice Cider, Pumpkin Caramel Latte, Sweet Cinnamon Pumpkin, Leaves, and Pumpkin Carving. And there may be a few more along the way. I haven't bought everything from the collection, and there are a few more that I may end up caving and purchasing. So if you have any questions, hit me up, and until next time, take care.